So after a successful run chased by Glamorgan, Colin Ingram leading the way. Wally, you played plenty of cricket with Colin. What was he like as a batsman, and what makes him so special?
Yeah, I mean, during its time for Glamorgan, there's been periods, I think, during its time at Glamorgan where he's certainly been one of the best T20 players in the world, certainly one of the best domestic T20 players in the world. And there kind of is such a thing at the moment, these guys who don't necessarily play international cricket, but dominate the domestic scene. And this season and the few seasons afterwards, he's absolutely at the height of his powers, and basically he just used to keep whacking the ball out of the park. And the way he plays it is very simple. It's a really basic approach. He just kind of tries to stay as still as possible and just hits really good shots, really, really hard. And it's a bit funny when you have a player who's that good, because the other side's focus can sometimes so much be on him. They get him out early, they get this massive boost. But once he gets going, especially at somewhere like Cardiff, he's so hard to stop because the boundaries are so small, and he hits the ball so hard all around the park. If you go short at him, he'll smack it over square leg for six. If you pitch it up, then look out. I mean, this was the season where he'd been out injured for quite a while, and his first game of the season against Surrey at the Oval, he walked out his first ball for six. And that's a pretty big statement of the confidence of the player and the ability. I think most people's all the season you're just trying to get some bat on it, and he smacked it in the pavilion at the Oval. So it kind of shows the sort of player we had. And it was great to be opening the batting with somebody like Colin in at 3, because you could actually think, well, if I smack him in the air, it's just getting him in earlier anyway.
150 wasn't going to be enough unless we got those 3 or 4 early wickets. I think Glamorgan approached the chase fantastic. They knew the conditions. First 2 overs may have swung a little bit, especially the first one. Wally was patting them back nicely for me. But it was obvious they really targeted that 3rd or 4th over. I think it was the 4th over, which went for about 20. Wally hit sort of 3 or 4 fours like we knew he could. The plans were certainly to try and get him to hit straight, so it was nice to see him hit 4 square boundaries. And certainly from then on, I think it was going to be a really tough ask for us. Colin Ingram comes in when you only need maybe 7 and over. He actually can play himself in. And he got to 50 basically before we knew it. He went from 15 to 50 in about 10 balls, I think. So just a really professional chase, very well-structured innings. Ingram at 3, and then to put the young fella, Nyron Donald, in at 4, just to sort of give him a bit of a free rein, it looked. Knowing you got the experience of Rudolph at 5 to finish the game off. So overall, the difference was just pure quality, I think. Players in form, quality players with a really straightforward game plan. And, it was a really obvious second played last, and the team that was second showed why.
Yeah, I guess a good example of, one side relatively high on confidence and one side a little bit less so. So, as I said earlier on, 156, we were pretty confident of walking off the field at half-time of chasing that down. And then when you go out to chase a score like that, it's all about trying to work out your plan. So you knew that Jim was going to bowl the first over, and that he would potentially be very dangerous while the white ball swung for that first over or so. But we also knew that, looking at their bowling attack, that they had somebody inexperienced in Paul Van Meekeren who was going to come in and have to bowl probably in the first 6 overs. So you'd kind of target him, or we certainly targeted him, that we could potentially put him under a bit of pressure, and use him potentially to get us off to a solid, good start, which ended up happening. What tends to happen with those inexperienced guys is, if you can get them away for 1-4, you can almost pressure them to change their plan, and then you might get a couple of gimmies. So we managed to get a few away off him. So I managed to get a couple of 4s, then play an absolutely horrific shot to get out. But look, that managed to get Colin Ingram to the crease. And as Jim said, when you haven't got a massive score, allow somebody like him to be able to play themselves in. Actually, you've got a really good basis, a really good position to be able to work from. So yeah, Cole, if anything, kind of steered the ship home in the way you can, and that you can feel like you're holding him back, and all of a sudden you go bang, 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 and get to 50 in 30 odd balls. And then having the luxury of having somebody like a Nyron with all his talent to come in after that, knowing that you got Jacques Rudolph 5. Realistically, it was a case of their score probably wasn't high enough, and once they hadn't taken any early wickets, Paul was probably the player to be able to just see us home. So a good win, because as you said at the start, a bit of pressure, secure that that quarter final. I think we ended up securing the home element of that quarter final in the rain down in Brighton a few days later. But yeah, great memories of a game like that. That was my last season playing. So yeah, some good memories. Even though you mentioned I did drop a nearly miss a stumping and play a really horrific shot, but good to be on the winning side and a good.
You opened the bowling against Mark. Played a lot of cricket together. What was he like to play with? And then if you could return the favour to that, Jim.
Really weird one with Wally. Like, we started our time playing against each other. He'll remember this because he absolutely smashed me. There was a day at Colwyn Bay, I think Glammy were chasing literally 100 off 6 overs, I think it was. And Paul Nixon, our skipper, decided that I should bowl about 6 overs straight at the death into the massive sea breeze at Colwyn Bay. And Wally must have hit me for 7 or 8 sixes in 3 overs. So much so that the umpire at one point, when he went to fetch another ball, because he'd been hit on the road again, was asking me how many I thought he should get. So it was quite a messy start to our time playing against each other. On the flip side, in championship cricket, I was getting him out a few times. So I really enjoyed playing against Wally the whole time. He was always obviously very friendly, like he is, exceptional cricketer. But certainly I enjoyed one of my favourite teammates to play with. I mean, we stood next to each other, probably saw each other more than we saw our families for about 5 years there, where I was at first slip and he was wicket keeper. And as skipper and vice captain, we had a fantastic relationship where I'd be grumpy that I had to bowl so much, and he'd say, "Sorry, mate, you got to bowl again," and I'd be like, "Yeah, no worries, mate." And we played a lot of good cricket together. We had a lot of exceptional partnerships together with the bat. Often at 6 and 7, often at 4 and 5 for 50. So we had a pretty similar approach to the game. I think I'd like to think neither one of us took ourselves too seriously. So, we always had a bit of a dip, but if we weren't performing well, I don't think it had affected us as sort of off the field or as people too much, which they're certainly my favourite teammates, the guys who, don't sort of strut around when they're doing well and get all sulky when they're struggling. And you really couldn't tell with Wal whether they had a good or a bad day. The way he approached his teammates, and the game rarely changed, and is a testament to his 230 odd straight championship games and captaining the club, and now obviously director of cricket. So sounds a bit soppy all that, but yeah, long story short, one of my favourite teammates. We'll never forget it. Forgive him for smacking me around at Colwyn Bay and ruining what was a really good day and exceptional weekend. But yeah, no, loved our time playing together, and certainly my fondest memories on the cricket field are at Glammy playing alongside him.
Well, thanks, Jim, and obviously thanks for bringing up Colwyn Bay. It was probably the one time I did actually manage to smack anybody. I think Jim's time at playing at Glamorgan, he was probably one of, if not the exceptional all-rounder in county cricket, and I think the stats certainly back that up, and actually across formats as well. So in the T20 stuff, it was often opening the batting, and then in the 4-day stuff, you had to bat a bit lower because you had to bowl 500 overs most games as well. So as a cricketer, Glamorgan have had a few better all rounders certainly during my time and before that as well. We spent a lot of time together. So we sat next to each other in the changing rooms. So talked a lot of rubbish in there, and also stood next to each other in the slip cordon as well. And one thing I can say about Jim is he certainly made me look a better keeper for a while, especially towards the end of my career where I couldn't quite move as well, because he used to catch everything at first slip when I should realistically have been going for it. And he was comfortably the best first slip that I come across. And obviously, in the changing room, he had a massive impact. And there's no difference that during his time at the club, it's when we started to make some improvements and started to produce some good players as well. Pretty selfless. He didn't like to bowl too much, but I used to make him bowl. But when he put a shift in, he put a proper shift in. And I think that's really testament to the sort of cricketer he was. Very, very proud in his performance. And when he had the ball in hand, bat in hand, he was somebody who was going to put a shift in and do everything he could for the cause. And actually, you can kind of see in this game, all the guys that played with Jim, how big a wicket it was at the start of that. Innings, to get him out with a bit of a gimme as a run out is great. And being captain, opening the batting and opening the bowling in this game, I suppose it's like being the old league pro again. He's a big player, to play against. Used to get me out all the time in the championship. Usually LBW, often caught behind, just however which way you could get me. Tried to bounce me out once, but I don't think that really worked. But yeah, look, I mean, it's you end up playing a lot of cricket with a lot of people, and Jim was a good player as I ended up playing with at Glamorgan, and glad he didn't do so well against us for Somerset.
Jim, just to round it off here, so what are your favourite memories, other than what you've already mentioned about playing? What are your favourite memories of playing for Glamorgan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my first full year at the club in 2010 was I think a lot of those guys' favourite season they played. I think not only were we a fantastic 4-day side at the time, although obviously we struggled a little bit in one-day cricket, there was a group of about 7 or 8, 9 blokes who were genuinely good friends off the field and played like it on the field. And we had an amazing, atmosphere around the club. It was really sort of building. And as I say, people really enjoyed each other's company, which when you spend all day, every day together is quite a unique thing. There was, as far as I know, very few politics, and everyone was genuinely keen for each other to do well, led very much by Mark Cosgrove's attitude to basically the game and everyone he played with, and his sort of attitude was infectious. And that year was a fantastic year, just in terms of coming to a new club and being made to feel welcome, and obviously performing really well. So there was that year, and obviously the next couple of years were quite tough for everyone. But I think it was 2013 is probably the other time to mention. We had a great run in the 50-over comp and got to a Lord's final. And I just remember that whole 50-over competition being not only successful, obviously, because we got to the final, but also, once again, just great fun. Marcus North was our skipper. He caught wind of the fact that we'd lost 2 games to the Unicorns out of 2. We'd had a couple of shockers against them, and it's unprofessional, but I'm not a professional cricketer anymore. But I know the night before we played them, we decided, right, we're going to have a team meal and have a couple of beers together. And, it wasn't anything too aggressive, but it was a bit of a like, right, we're going to go out tomorrow and we're going to have a proper dip at these guys. And rather than sort of treat it like another game, we actually went out there with the attitude that we're going to try and dominate this game. And we must have won, I think, by 200 runs, if it isn't, 150. So the attitude of that team was once again getting back to similar to that 2010 sort of attitude. You had, Wally was playing exceptionally well. Northie was having a good tournament. Chris Cook was coming into the side and doing exceptionally well. Murray Goodwin was just getting a lot of runs and just being really tight like he does. It was one of Hoag's first seasons at the club. So we'd got a really great core group of players, but also good blokes together. And that Lord's final, which I think everyone remembers really fondly, for the build-up and the post-game. We didn't play our best on the day, but we played against essentially an international team. So that season was exceptional. Obviously only lasted one more year and made the move down to Somerset, which, in hindsight may or may not have been the right decision, but, it was made for the right reasons. But one of certainly, to answer your question really in a really long-winded way, but to try and conclude it, I think it was just, personally, it was the way I was treated by the club, my teammates and the supporters for almost the whole time there, that when I think back on it now, I just remember only good things about it. And obviously there was some tough times for everyone. And, when you leave a club, it's never, for great reasons, but I think there's a huge amount of mutual respect there, and something I certainly love about the Welsh people and about Cardiff as a city is just it's how welcoming everyone is, and they do show you a lot of respect if you show a lot back. And Glamorgan as a club have always shown me a lot of respect, and had an absolutely fantastic time down there, and still have a house there, so I still go back whenever I'm in the country or in the continent, and I'll always remember the people as much as the cricketers. Probably the most positive thing about Cardiff.
All right, well, thanks for your time, Jim, and thanks, Mark, for joining us. And there you have it, Morgan replay from the 2016 big match. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again soon.